Grazing. My wife, Kath, and I run this business called the Morecambe Bay Conservation and Grazing Company, and we're based in the Silverdale, Arnside and Silverdale area of outstanding natural beauty on the edge of Morecambe Bay. And our farming system consists of breeding and finishing mainly red poll cattle, and we do that by leasing lots of nature reserves in the area, and we take the cattle around this group of nature reserves and provide the grazing that will deliver the wildlife benefits that are required. This is our base. This is where we operate from. We store our vehicles and our equipment. It's a piece of historic parkland with some very impressive lime trees and sycamore and elm and beech. It's quite a nice mix of different things laid out in quite a formal way, and it's very convenient for managing the cattle at calving time. They just carve out on the park. We can check them fairly easily. We've got lots of shelter. So in the area around this, there's something in the order of about 600 hectares of different nature reserves, some of them just within a radius of a couple of miles, and some of them quite a bit further away. So we need a Land Rover and a livestock trailer, so a lot of the animals have to be moved by road in order to get them to these different sites, and in order to remove them when they've done the required amount of grazing. We're an organic system, certified with the Soil Association, and we're also certified as pasture for life. So we keep red poll cattle. It's a native breed, a traditional breed that hasn't been changed very much. It's a dual purpose breed. These animals here are 18 months old, so last year's calves, and they've been down in this very mixed habitat for about 2 months or so. And so as they can move in between these areas of trees and the more open areas where there's a mixture of semi-natural vegetation, rushes, reeds, wild grasses, wild herbs. We think it's an important aspect of the system because they're always selecting the things that are most useful for them at the time.
And it's interesting because they clearly learn those kind of behaviours from their mums. So although these are now here without their mums, they would have spent 9 or 10 months with them in similar kind of environment, and they would have learned what were the good things to eat and what things best to avoid.
So this is an example of what most people would consider these days as agroforestry, because it's combining production of timber, and these trees here have been planted in quite a regular way to encourage them to grow up tall and straight. So there's potential here for a crop of useful timber. The cattle are able to browse the shrubbery down below them and get some. So eventually these cattle will all go for beef. They're steers. We're not going to keep them for breeding, but they're not in any rush. We don't push them. We don't feed them with any bought-in feeds. They have to do it all entirely on their own. And so if they take a bit more time to do that, we're not too worried because it's not costing us a huge amount in terms of feed bills, in terms of vets bills. We're quite happy to let them go at their own pace. And all the time that they're doing that, they're delivering this extra benefit from improving the habitats for wildlife.
In terms of benefits for us, it's actually achieving something that we felt for many years to be the right way of producing meat in harmony with nature. And to see some places that had previously either been abandoned for grazing and scrubbed over with not much floral diversity, to see those places coming back when the grazing has been restored and producing multitude of different wildflowers and insects that go with it. And of course the cattle bring dung, which because it's organic dung, the insects utilize that, and so that increases the amount of insect life, which then also has a knock on for birds and other animals that eat invertebrates. So it's the whole system improves.
There's a lot of job satisfaction for us, as well as the benefits of being able to actually generate a viable livelihood out of it.
And I think with the current approach in the way in which the agri-environment schemes are looking at reviewing the way in which funding is going to be provided, I think it's encouraging that there'll be quite a lot of opportunities for people to be able to start similar schemes up wherever they are and wherever there is land available for doing that.
The message from government in the UK at the moment is that the environment bill that is currently going through Parliament is suggesting that there's a target now for protecting 30% of the total land area for nature, and my assumption there would be that much of that land would need the kind of grazing that we're delivering. There should be lots of opportunities for more farmers to get involved with this way of working once they start talking to the nature conservation community, and if the two sides can get together, then hopefully there will be lots of potential there. So renaturing, as we see it, is about using basic farming approaches, but using them in a way which allows nature to come back in. And we've seen this, on a lot of the sites which started out maybe 30 years ago. They had been conventional way, they had fertilizers. Some of them may have been ploughed up and reseeded with the standard ryegrass mix. So we know from having taken on these areas, if you start managing them without those chemicals, if you start grazing them in ways which are more sensitive and are more likely to encourage flowers and herbs and clovers and richer, more diverse plant, if you encourage them by the grazing and the management to go in that direction, then they will usually respond, often surprisingly quickly. And then once you've got those things established, that's what gives you the kind of inspiration, the satisfaction. You see these things coming, and farmers who perhaps before were quite cynical about the whole thing, we've seen them really get excited about that aspect of it.